Hi there, freelance friends. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Today, we're going to be talking about something I'm especially passionate about lately, and it's the transformative power that I have found from decluttering. Now, of course, I'm going to gear this towards freelancers, but I honestly think that this applies to everyone and everyone. That with decluttering, you are really sending a message out to the universe that you are creating space for what's next. Now, I know when people talk about decluttering, as I just did, as some sort of life-changing practice, it can sound a bit woohoo. Like somehow getting rid of old magazines is going to magically improve your freelance business. But here's what I've discovered through my own decluttering journey and suggestions from a business coach that I actually use. It's not fake. It's real. And the benefits go far deeper than just having a neater workspace. As freelancers, we often work from home, and our environment isn't just where we live. It's our office. It's our creative space. It's our meeting room. And when that space is cluttered, chaotic, or filled with things that we don't need or use, it impacts everything. It impacts our focus, our creativity, our energy, and even our ability to move forward professionally. So let me tell you why and what you can do to create this important space in your life and in your business. First, the space that you create isn't just a physical space. Now, yes, decluttering is going to help you get organized. That's the obvious benefit. You're going to be able to find things faster. Your desk is going to look better on video calls. And you're not constantly moving piles of stuff around to clear off a workspace. All of that obviously matters. But there's something deeper that happens when you declutter. And this is the part that sounds fake until you try it yourself. I challenge you to try this yourself. Creating physical space actually creates mental and emotional space for new things to come into your life. Think about it this way. When every closet is stuffed full, every drawer is crammed, and every surface is covered, your digital files are a chaotic mess of duplicates and old projects. There's literally no room for anything new. Not just physically, but energetically. Your environment is basically sending a message that says everything is full, no space here. And that's probably not the message you want to send. So when you're holding on to old client files from years ago, beauty products you've never opened, gifts you've felt obliged to keep, clothes that don't fit, furniture that doesn't serve you any longer, you're anchoring yourself to the past. You're dedicating your precious space and mental energy to things that are no longer relevant to who you are or where you're going. And here's the thing about freelancing. It requires constant evolution. You need mental bandwidth to learn new skills. You need physical space to take on new types of projects. You need emotional energy to put yourself out there, to pitch new clients, to try new approaches. When you're drowning in clutter, whether that's physical clutter, digital clutter, or mental clutter, you're using all that bandwidth just to manage what you already have. There's no room left for growth. Decluttering is going to create space for you, and that's just going to build. When you create that space intentionally, you're essentially telling the universe, or yourself, or whatever you want to call it, I'm ready for something new. I'm making room for the next chapter. I know it sounds almost magical, but I have experienced it myself over and over and over again. When I finally cleared out that closet that has been stressing me out every time I opened it, I didn't just feel relief, I felt possibility. Suddenly I had space to think about the new service offering I'd been putting off. When I organized my digital files and deleted hundreds of outdated documents, I found myself with clarity about what direction to take my business next, because clearing out any space will give you more overall space. The space you create physically reflects in your mental and creative capacity. And as a freelancer, that capacity is everything. So when I think of decluttering, I think of 3 types that every freelancer needs to do. The first one is the obvious, or maybe the most obvious, the physical space decluttering. It matters enormously when you work from home. I have been on my own decluttering journey recently, as I mentioned, and I'm learning a lot about myself in the process, because my natural tendency is to hold on to things for longer than I need to, and to hold on to more things than I actually need to. I'm not a hoarder, but I'm definitely someone who thinks I might need this someday, or, but this was a gift, or I spent money on this, so I should keep it even though I never use it. Well, I've been tackling that bit by bit. I'm still working on it, definitely still working on it, but I feel like I'm moving further into the process and I'm noticing the results. So, for instance, I cleaned out a couple of closets recently, not the fun, satisfying kind of cleaning where you throw everything away, but the slow, thoughtful kind where you have to make decisions about each item. If you've done it, you know it's harder than it sounds, especially when you're someone who tends to hold on to things. Now, another thing I've done is I've helped facilitate one of my daughters with her own decluttering process. That was also interesting. Watching her let go of things she'd outgrown made me realize how I am still holding on to a lot of things that I've also outgrown, not just physically, but professionally and personally. So that is something that caused me to really reflect myself. Now, I'm also in the middle of redecorating my office. You should see the results soon. And it's not just about making it prettier, although I think that's going to be a nice after effect, and it is one of my objectives, but it's about creating a space that supports the kind of work that I'm doing now, and not the work I was doing a couple years ago. I'm thinking about what I'm doing now and what I want to move forward into. And of course, I do feel like this is going to improve how my space looks on virtual calls. Fingers crossed. Because as freelancers, we're on camera constantly. And as I've mentioned in other videos about your virtual presence, our backgrounds matter. Our environment matters. When clients see a professional, organized space behind you, it communicates something about you and how you work. But I am proud of my journey so far. I've been getting rid of little things, just sometimes a couple of things a day. And then when I have more time, tackling something that's a little bit more of a larger project. I found that the stuff that's easy to overlook but adds up does also have some significance, like those beauty products that I bought and never used. Why am I keeping them? Gifts that people gave me that I really appreciated but actually have no need for. Why do I feel obligated to store them forever? Little knickknacks, random supplies, things I thought I'd need but actually never even opened. It's slow going because it's against my natural tendency. I tend to hold on to things, as I mentioned, but every single thing I release does feel like a tiny weight lifted. And I can tell you that every time I open one of the closets that I've mostly cleared, I can take a deep breath. I just feel like there's so much space where it was a total different reaction when I opened that closet door in the past. So cumulatively, it's really creating breathing room for me. Then there's digital decluttering. This is less visible than physical decluttering, but I think it's just as important, maybe even more so for freelancers because we work and live digitally most often. Now, your computer is probably a disaster. I know that mine was and still partially is. Duplicate files, screenshots from 2019, half finished projects, proposals that never went anywhere, random downloads, PDFs that I meant to read but never did. Oh, and then there's the 47 versions of the same file with names like final, final, really final, version 3. You all probably have something similar. But digital clutter is insidious because you can't see it piled up in the corner of your room, but it impacts you every single time you try to find a file and you can't. Every time you scroll through a disorganized folder, every time you waste 5 minutes looking for something that should take 5 seconds to locate. So I'll challenge you to start with your digital desktop, then tackle your downloads folder, then your documents, and just create a simple, logical folder structure. Delete old projects that you're never going to reference again. In my case, there are some projects that I did work hard on at the time and they were wonderful at the time, but doing a lot of technology training, I can't use those presentations any longer. They're old. The technology is outdated, so there's really no reason for me to keep them. Additionally, you can unsubscribe from newsletters that you don't read. That will help clear out your email inbox, which is a place where I know that I have a lot of clutter. You can also delete apps that you don't use, maybe organize your bookmarks into one place. I think that you'll find that digital decluttering is liberating in a different way than physical decluttering. It makes your tools work for you instead of against you. And when you're a freelancer, your digital workspace is your workspace. So making it clean and functional directly impacts your productivity. And last, there is the mental decluttering. I saved it for last because it probably is the hardest one to quantify, but it might be the most important. Mental clutter shows up as tasks you keep meaning to do but never start, decisions you keep avoiding, projects you said yes to out of obligation, client relationships that drain you, services you still offer even though you hate doing them, goals you think you're pursuing because you think you should rather than because you actually want to. So basically, mental decluttering means saying no to opportunities that aren't aligned with where you want to go, dropping products or services that don't serve you anymore, setting boundaries with clients who don't respect your time, letting go of the guilt around what you're supposed to be doing, and then releasing old versions of yourself and the expectations that came with them. For me, mental decluttering has looked like being more selective about projects that I take on. It's meant being honest about what I actually want my freelance business to look like rather than what I thought it should look like when I started. It also meant decluttering my schedule. Just because I can work anytime doesn't mean I should be working all the time. I needed to create some white space in my calendar, actual empty time with nothing scheduled, and that has been very impactful for me, and I need to make sure that I continue to do that. So I will tell you that you are going to likely encounter some resistance when you start decluttering. And that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily mention, but the resistance is real. So especially for someone like me, when your natural tendency is to hold on to things, every single decision becomes weighty. You start saying things like, but I might need this someday. And that's where the other voice on the other shoulder has to say, you won't. But this was expensive. And the voice has to say, keeping it doesn't get your money back. But someone gave this to me. They gave it for you to use, not to stress over. But I might fit into this again. Isn't that a common one? Well, if you do, you'll probably want to go shopping to celebrate and buy something new anyway. But this represents a period of my life. Well, you can honor that period without physically storing its artifacts. I've said all of these to myself multiple times. The resistance for me is real. And that resistance is actually information that I'm using on this journey that I'm currently in. The things that you're most reluctant to let go of are often the things that you most need to release. They're anchors that are keeping you in the past, preventing you from moving forward. So when I'm going through my beauty products and holding on to something I've literally not used in 2 years, that hesitation to throw it away isn't about the product. It's about admitting that I made a purchase that I didn't need to make. It's about letting go of the version of myself who thought I'd use it. It's about accepting that holding on to it doesn't change the fact that I won't use it. The same is true for professional decluttering. Deleting old project files feels like deleting proof of my work that I did. But letting go of files or services that you used to offer can really benefit you. I know that sometimes letting go of a service makes you feel like you failed at it, but instead think of it as to opening a path for things that better align for you. Because the resistance is keeping you stuck. And as a freelancer, or as anyone, stuck is dangerous. Stuck means you're not evolving, not growing, not making room for better opportunities that could be coming. Now, you don't have to overhaul your entire life in a weekend. This is something that I really started doing not quite a year ago. And it was at the prompting of a business coach that I work with who just preached how important this was. And I'll admit that when I heard it, I thought, really? Is that really going to make a difference? I would like to declutter, but I have other more important things to do. I've learned it really is that important. But what works, or what's working for me, is just making small, consistent progress. I haven't done everything that I know that I need to do, but I'm trying, and I can definitely say that I'm moving along the path in a positive direction. I work on one closet, one drawer, sometimes even one item, one folder or file on my computer. It seems to be working so far. When I look at the progress that I've made over this last almost year, I do feel proud of myself for it, because each small act of decluttering creates momentum. It proves to yourself that you can let go. It builds that muscle of decision making, and it creates visible evidence that you're making progress. And one of the beautiful things is those small acts compound. The closet you cleaned out makes it easier to clean out the next one. That digital folder you organized makes you want to organize another. And of course, the client boundary that you set is easier the next time you do it. So you will start to see how much lighter you feel and how much easier it is to focus. Just try it and see how much more space, physical, digital, mental, emotional, you will create for the things that actually matter. So in summary, when you declutter, the things that fill the space sometimes are practical. Sometimes you take on a new type of project because you finally have the mental bandwidth for it. You reorganize your services because you've cleared out the ones that were draining you. You improve your client experience because you've streamlined your systems. But other times it could be creative things. New ideas stop flowing because your mind isn't constantly processing the background noise of clutter. You may finally start that side project you've been thinking about for months or years. You may experiment with a new approach because you have some space to try it. But then sometimes it's personal things. You have more energy for your family because you're not stressed about the state of your home. You sleep better because your bedroom isn't filled with reminders of unfinished tasks. You feel calmer because your environment supports you instead of overwhelming you. I know that it definitely worked that way for me. I decided last year that I was going to take the plunge and get a cleaner to help me with things around the house. And I cannot tell you the positive impact that that has had for me overall, because I'm no longer stressed about the state of my home. It makes me be able to be more present for my family and more present for my clients. It's been the biggest benefit for me. And then, of course, sometimes it's the part that really does sound fake until you experience it. There are going to be opportunities that just show up that didn't before. And it's not because of some woohoo magic, but because you're less weighed down by the things around you, that you have the presence and the clarity to notice and act on opportunities that were probably there all along. So if you're reading this or hearing this and you're feeling overwhelmed by the idea of decluttering, just start small. Pick one drawer, just one category of items. I was watching an organizer on TikTok who suggested that you just declutter for 10, 15 minutes a day, that you make it, very small and stress-free, and that again, those cumulative actions are going to compound. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is to make progress. The goal is to create just a little bit of space and notice how it feels. So I am still very much in the middle of this journey. I have done some decluttering myself, but I'm not some decluttering guru who has a perfectly minimalistic home and a Zen-like digital workspace. Oh gosh, no, that is not me. I'm someone with a natural tendency to hold on to things, who's slowly learning to let go and slowly creating space. And I'm discovering possibilities as I move along this journey. But even the small progress I've made, as I've mentioned, it's shown me important things, that the space that I create is never just empty space. It's possibility, it's potential, it's room for my growth and for new opportunities, for the next version of me and my freelance business. And it will be the same for you, for the next version of you and your freelance business. So decluttering isn't about becoming a minimalist or getting rid of everything you own. It's being intentional with your space, physical, digital, and mental. And it's about recognizing that everything that you keep requires energy to maintain it, and making sure that energy is going towards things that actually serve you. As a freelancer, your environment is your competitive advantage or your liability. So a cluttered space creates a cluttered mind, and a cluttered mind struggles to focus, create, and make good decisions. But when you create that space, really create it intentionally and thoughtfully, you're not just organizing, you're preparing for what's next. You're signaling to yourself that you're ready for growth, for change, and for the opportunities you've been hoping for. Again, I know it might sound fake, but it's not. The space you create matters. What comes next will prove it. Thank you for watching today. I hope this helped. I hope that you take some action toward decluttering. Please share this and like this if you know someone who would appreciate it. I would appreciate it also. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.